Hi, my name is Paweł Matusz. I'm a political activist, and Sterni asked me to talk a little bit about the rise of the right-wing movement in Poland in relation to gender issues and queer issues. I come from Poland. I lived in Poland till 2016, and I was part of many left-wing, anti-fascist, and queer collectives. And I will talk a little bit about how those things are connected from my own perspective. So the first thing I would like to say is to put the right-wing movements in Poland into broader context. A lot of journalists, theoreticians, and activists, they focus on Peace Party, Prawo i Sprawiedliwość, Law and Justice Party, as the main factor for the growth of the right-wing movements in Poland. But to be honest, the right wing and neoliberal and regressive politics, they were really present in the Poland since the beginning of the 90s after the communist regime was dismantled. So in the beginning of the 90s, a lot of fascist organizations were reactivated. For example, All Polish Youth. Abortion was banned, and the main political focus was on the free market economy. And the Catholic Church also was a beginning of a time where they were becoming a lot of power and support of the state. As an example, I can say that in the late 2000s, I remember in my school, I was experiencing a ban on the emancipatory and progressive text in our booklets. The Peace Party, that was also in the government with another fundamentalist party at this time, they were trying to ban emancipatory texts, emancipatory authors, and put instead of it some Catholic text of the John Paul II, the Polish Pope. And for me, as a person who was discovering my own queer identity or my own gay identity, it was the first time when I noticed that there is a political movement or a political fraction visible in the Polish society, in the Polish political scene, that is against me, against people who are non-normative or who are trying to live the life outside of family values framework and outside of also of the capitalist ideas. Last 7, 8 years, last decade, we could see how the right-wing politics already planted in the grassroots movement, in the education, also in the state's politic, glorification of fascists by conservative, liberal, or nationalist politics, how those ideas entered the political mainstream. And in 2015 and 16, the propaganda machine and all the state institutions, including media, created a wave of hate, racist hate against refugees. The same machine was used a few years later in 2020 to create an image of LGBT activists as a threat for the family, as a threat for Polish nation, and as a threat for the Eastern European traditionalism that is supposed to be contra for the Western liberalism. What are the effects of this regressive anti-LGBT and anti-gender politics as a state ideology? LGBT and queer activists are being criminalized. In 2020, Margot, a non-binary anti-fascist activist, she was hanging a rainbow flags on certain national monuments in Warsaw. She was arrested. There was riots. 50 activists were arrested. It's called Polish Stonewall riot. Pro-choice movement is experiencing a great revolution in the sense that actually everybody in Poland now knows how to get a pharmacological abortion, even if it's criminalized. And so we have a great work that activists are doing, but on the other side, the state is suppressing them and trying to criminalize them. One of them, her name is Justyna, is now experiencing a process. She's being prosecuted for helping performing an abortion, and also some activists that are helping refugees go through Polish-Belarusian border are being criminalized. So we see how the right-wing movement is targeting progressive politics, pro-migrant and pro-reproductive rights politics. Finally, I would like to say a few words how those right-wing ideas, those regressive ideas are also influencing anti-fascist, anarchist and progressive grassroots movements. The idea of nation, the idea of patriotism has entered queer and feminist politics. Today on the feminist marches we speak about Polish gays, about Polish women, about Poland as being an open country, on the contrary to being a fascist country. But the international perspective, the anti-nationalist perspective, is not there anymore. So this is an effect of the right-wing politics really becoming a state ideology politics and really influencing our left-wing discourses. And this is maybe a question I would like to ask you. How do you perceive the idea of patriotism and the idea of nations in the US? How do you criticize, for example, the national colors? In Poland, national colors, which is red and white, are visible on many gay prides, anti-fascist protests, etc. This is an effect of the right-wing movements taking over in Poland. I hope it was informative for you, and if you have any further questions, you can contact me and ask about my contact Sterney.